Hello, and welcome back to Under Pink Skies. If this is your first time here, I'm glad the tide brought you in. This is a quiet place. Every story is an hour long, written to help you slow down, let the day go, and find your way to sleep. Tonight we're beginning something new. This is the first story in a new series, By the Water. Each story in this series is set somewhere near the sea, where the sound of water does the work that water has always done, carrying things away, smoothing things down, returning again and again, with the patience that only the ocean has. Tonight's story is called The Tide Comes In and Takes the Day with It. Before we begin, if this helps you sleep, a subscription means there'll always be somewhere quiet to come back to. And when you wake up, if you'd like to leave a comment, what time it is where you are, or where in the world you're listening from tonight, I'd love to know. I always do. Now, let your body settle. Let your breathing find its own pace. The tide is coming in. There's nothing to do but listen. You are near the water, not in it. You are on dry ground, or on something that holds you safely above the reach of the tide. A bench, perhaps, on a seawall, a low dune, its grasses still and dark, a stretch of dry sand above the tide line, where the ground is firm and the air smells of salt and something older than salt. The particular smell of the sea at night, which is the smell of the whole ocean arriving at the edge of land and leaving something of itself behind. The light is low. Whatever light there was this evening, the last of the sun, the slow dimming of the horizon, has gone now, or is nearly gone. What remains is the particular quality of a coastal night. A sky that is never entirely dark near the water, because the water holds whatever light there is and gives it back. The sea surface, out beyond the shore, has a faint luminescence that is not quite glow and not quite reflection. It is simply the sea being the sea at night, present, wide, doing what it does. The tide is coming in. You can hear it happening. Each wave arrives a little further up the shore than the last. Not by much, not in any single wave, but cumulatively, over the course of the evening, the water has been advancing. The tide line, wherever it was when the evening began, is further up the beach now. The sand that was dry is wet. The wet sand that was exposed is covered. The sea is reclaiming, slowly and without urgency, the ground it gave up when the tide was out. This is something the tide has been doing for longer than there has been anyone to watch it. Twice each day, the water advances and retreats. The shore is covered and uncovered. The rocks that were in the air are underwater, and the rocks that were underwater are in the air. And then the whole sequence reverses and begins again. It has been doing this since before the shore was this shape, before these particular rocks were here, before the land took the form it has now. The tide does not vary this. It does not have days when it cannot be bothered. It advances and retreats, advances and retreats with a reliability that belongs to almost nothing else in the world. And tonight, it is advancing. The sound of each wave is its own small event. It begins at a distance, a building, a low hiss of water gathering itself. Then the arrival, a longer sound, the wave spending itself on the shore, spreading thin and wide, the water running up over whatever is there, sand or pebbles or flat rock. And then the retreat. The retreat is its own sound, different from the arrival. Softer, longer, the water pulling back over what it covered. A sound like a long sigh, a sound like something being released, and then a pause, a brief true silence between one wave and the next, and then the next wave begins to build. You are listening to this, not actively, not in the way you listen to something that requires analysis or response, simply receiving it, the way you receive warmth when warmth is present, the way you receive quiet when quiet is present. The sound of the waves is the sound of the evening. It has been here since you arrived, and you have been absorbing it gradually. And by now, it is less a sound you are hearing than a quality you are inside of. The air is cool, not cold, not the cold that asks you to move or cover yourself. Just the particular cool of sea air at night, which has a quality that inland air does not have. It is cleaner, perhaps, or heavier, weighted with moisture and salt. The exhalation of a vast body of water. You breathe it in, and it is different from the air of rooms, different from the air of cities or of fields. It is the air of the edge of the land, where the world ends and the water begins. You are at that edge, not to do anything with it, not to make a decision about it or extract meaning from it, simply to be at it in the dark while the tide comes in. The sound of waves is one of the oldest sounds a human body can hear. Not in the sense of personal memory, though many people carry the sea somewhere in their memory, a particular shore, a particular summer, a particular quality of light on water, but older than that. The sound of the sea is among the sounds the body has been hearing in one form or another, for as long as bodies have existed near coastlines, which is nearly as long as bodies have existed at all. Something in the nervous system receives this sound differently from other sounds, not as information to be processed or a signal to be responded to, but as a known thing, something already understood, something safe. The body knows this sound means you are at the edge, not a dangerous edge, the oldest kind of edge, the edge where land becomes water, where the solid world ends and the moving world begins. This edge is not a threat. It is a boundary, and boundaries are, in their way, reassuring. They tell you where you are. They tell you what is land and what is sea, what is here and what is there, what is yours to occupy, and what belongs to something larger than you. You are on the land side of this boundary tonight, and the boundary itself, the place where the waves arrive and spend themselves, is moving very slowly toward you as the tide advances, not reaching you, just advancing in its patient way, getting closer with each wave, doing what tides do in the night hours when no one is watching. There is something about being at the edge of something large that changes the scale of everything else, the things that concerned you today, and something concerned you today, because something always concerns you, because that is what days are made of, seem a different size from here, not smaller exactly, just differently proportioned. The ocean has a way of receiving the scale of human concern and putting it in relation to something else. The width of the water, the depth of the night, the age of the tide that is advancing now, just as it advanced 10,000 years ago and will advance 10,000 years from now. This is not a comfort that requires believing. It simply is. The ocean is large, the tide is old, the night is wide, and you are here at the edge of all of it, breathing the salt air, listening to the waves arrive and retreat, while the day you carried here begins, very slowly, to release its hold. The tide takes things. This is one of its properties, one of the things it does as it moves. It takes what is on the shore, and it moves it, sometimes a little, sometimes a great deal, depending on the strength of the water and the weight of the thing. Pebbles travel, sand shifts, seaweed that was stranded at the last high tide is lifted and carried further. The shore after the tide has been is a different shore from the shore before, rearranged, rinsed, reset. Tonight, the tide is taking the day. Not literally. The day is not an object, not something the water can touch. But there is a way in which being near the water at night, listening to the tide advance, produces the sensation that the things you carried through the day are being taken from you in the same way. Gently, without drama, without your having to do anything. The water arrives, and something goes with it when it retreats. Think of what today contained, not to review it or judge it or dwell on any particular part, just the shape of it, the texture of the hours, the things that were asked of you and the things you gave, the small difficulties and the ordinary moments, and whatever else made up the sequence from waking to here. It is all there, somewhere behind you, and the tide is moving over it. Each wave takes a little more. The things that felt most urgent this morning, the tide takes them. The conversation that went differently than you hoped, the tide takes it. The small worry that has been circling since the afternoon, turning itself over, finding no resolution, the tide takes it too. Not because the tide cares about any of this. The tide does not care. The tide is simply water moving under the influence of the moon and the rotation of the earth, indifferent to everything on the shore. But that indifference is, in its way, a relief. The tide does not assess what it takes. It does not decide some things are worth keeping and others worth releasing. It simply moves, and everything in its path moves with it. The sea has a particular relationship with time, not the same relationship that the land has or that people have. The sea does not experience time as a sequence of moments building towards something. It experiences it, if experience is even the right word, as cycles, repetition without progression. The tide that is coming in tonight is the same tide in all essential ways as the tide that came in last night and the night before and the night before that. Stretching back through all the nights there have been tides, which is all the nights there have been a moon and an ocean. This is a very old tide, and you are watching a very small portion of it. This hour, this shore, this particular sequence of waves arriving and retreating in the dark. But even this small portion contains something of the whole, the same mechanism, the same indifference to urgency, the same quality of simply doing what it does, at the pace it does it, regardless of what anyone on the shore might prefer. There is something quietly leveling about this. the things that felt important today. And they were important, or at least they felt that way, which amounts to the same thing during the day. They have a different weight at the water's edge, not because they are dismissed or diminished, but because the ocean provides a scale against which everything can be measured, and against that scale, the events of a single day are very small, and small things are easier to carry and easier to set down. Set them down here, at the tide line. Let the water take them when it comes. You do not have to decide what to let go of tonight. The tide will decide, or rather, the tide will not decide. It will simply take what is in its way, and by morning the shore will be clean, and whatever you came here carrying will have been rearranged into something lighter. The waves arrive in their steady sequence, each one building at a distance, arriving, spending itself, retreating, and the brief pause, and then the next one building. You have been listening to this long enough that the sequence has become part of your breath, or perhaps your breath has become part of the sequence. It is difficult now to say which is following which. The wave arrives, and your breath moves. The wave retreats, and your breath releases. The pause between waves is the pause between breaths. This is the oldest rhythm there is. The body's rhythm and the water's rhythm are not so different. Both are cycles of advance and retreat, of gathering and release, of presence and the space between presence. The heart, the lungs, the waves, all of them doing the same fundamental thing in different keys, at different speeds, each one the echo of the others. Your breath and the tide are in conversation now. You do not need to manage this conversation. It is happening on its own, the way the tide happens, without your assistance. The breath comes in when it comes. It goes when it goes. The pause is as long as it needs to be, and the next breath arrives, just as the next wave arrives, without being summoned. The air is cooler than it was. The night has deepened. Whatever warmth the day left in the air has gone into the water and the sky, and what remains is the clean cool of a coastal night well into its own hours. It is not uncomfortable. It is the right temperature for the kind of stillness you are settling into. Cool enough that the body knows this is the time for rest. Warm enough that rest is possible. Breathe in the sea air, the salt, the particular exhalation of a dark ocean. Breathe out, long and slow, like the retreating wave, like something releasing. The tide continues its advance. The beach at night is a different place from the beach by day. By day, it has people and colour, and the noise of everything that people bring with them. By night, it has none of that. It has the dark and the water and the sound of waves, and the particular quality of a place that has been returned to itself, that is being what it is rather than what it is used for. You are the only person here, or nearly so. Whatever else is present is the non-human presence of the shore. The birds that sleep in their various hidden places, folded into themselves, warm and still, in the dark. The creatures that live in the rock pools and the wet sand, going about their small and patient lives, regardless of the hour. The seagrass on the dunes, if there are dunes, moving slightly in whatever air is moving. None of it is aware of you in any meaningful sense. And that is restful in its way, to be in a place that does not register your presence, that does not require anything from you, that is simply proceeding with its own existence without reference to yours. The shore is like this. The water is like this. The night sky above both of them is like this, vast and unconcerned, doing what skies do, which is be above everything equally and belong to nothing in particular. Look up if you are inclined to, or simply know that the sky is there, the coastal sky, which tends to be wider than the sky seen from anywhere inland, because there is nothing on the water side to interrupt the horizon. The sky comes down to the water's edge on that side and meets it there. And between the sky and the water, there is a line that is not quite visible in the dark, but is present as a feeling. The boundary between two kinds of vast, the boundary between up and down. You are below all of that. Small, in the way that everyone is small near the ocean. Not distressingly small, but appropriately small. Scaled correctly to the size of things. The ocean is very large. The sky above it is very large. And you are the right size for sitting on a shore at the edge of both, listening to waves, letting the night be what it is. The sound of the water has settled into you by now. It began as something you were listening to, and has become something you are inside of. The waves are no longer arriving at your ears from outside. They are simply part of the texture of where you are, as much as the cool air and the smell of salt and the ground beneath you. You have absorbed them. They have absorbed you. This is what happens when you stay in one place long enough. The place, and you reach an accommodation. You stop being a visitor and become temporarily part of what is here. The shore does not know this has happened. The waves do not adjust their rhythm for you, but something in you adjusts. Some boundary between inside and outside softens, and the sound of the water begins to move through you rather than arriving at you. And the distinction between the rhythm of the waves and the rhythm of your own body becomes less clear. The night has its own sounds at the shore. Not just the waves, though the waves are the primary sound. The sound everything else is layered against. Beneath the waves, or between them, there are other sounds. The faint rush of water through pebbles as the wave retreats. A sound like a long inhale reversed. The creak of a boat somewhere, if there are boats, the sound carrying across the water, with a particular clarity that sound has over still water at night. A bird, perhaps, some seabird that keeps different hours from the birds of the land, calling once and then silent. None of these sounds demand anything. They are simply the sounds of the shore being the shore, of the sea being the sea, of a night at the water's edge that is entirely ordinary and entirely sufficient. You have been absorbing them long enough that they have moved from foreground to background, from events to texture, from sounds arriving at you to sounds you are inside of. The water, and you have reached an understanding. You are here. The water is there, and also here, in the sound of it and the smell of it, and the particular quality of the air that has come off the surface of the sea and arrived at the shore and been breathed in by you. The sea is in you now, in a small way, in the air in your lungs, in the rhythm your breathing has found, in the slowness that has settled into your body over the last hour. And in the morning, you will carry a little of it away with you, the way you always carry a little of every place you have been still in for long enough. But that is morning. Tonight, the tide is still coming in, and you are still here, and the night is still wide, and the water is still patient, and there is no reason to move toward morning any faster than the tide moves toward the shore, which is to say, slowly, at the tide's own pace, which is also now your pace. Your body has been settling throughout all of this. The muscles that hold you upright during the day have been releasing since you arrived here. Your shoulders are lower than they were. Your jaw is softer. The back of your neck, which has been holding the weight of your head through all the hours since this morning, is being held now by whatever is behind you. And if nothing is behind you, then the position of your head has found the angle at which it requires the least effort, the natural rest position that the neck returns to when no performance is required of it. Your hands are resting, wherever they are, in your lap beside you, loosely, one over the other. They are warm despite the cool air, because the body keeps its own warmth in the extremities, even in cool conditions. And your hands have the warmth of a body that is gradually, gently releasing its day. Consider the shore beneath you, sand perhaps, or shingle. The accumulated material of thousands of years of the sea breaking rock into smaller and smaller pieces and depositing them here at this edge. Every grain of sand on a beach was once something larger. Every smooth pebble was once something rougher. The sea has been doing this work of gradual reduction for longer than the shore has been this shape. And the shore has been this shape for longer than anyone alive has been alive. You are resting on the work of a very long time. The ground beneath you has been shaped by patience, by the same repetitive action of water arriving and departing, that you have been listening to tonight. This patience is in the material of the shore. It is in the roundness of the stones and the fineness of the sand. And the way the tide line is always slightly different, but always fundamentally the same. You can rest on this patience. It will hold you. The tide is still advancing. Somewhere out in the dark, the water is continuing its slow progress up the shore. By morning, the high tide mark will be wherever it will be, and then the retreat will begin, and the whole sequence will reverse, and by the time you wake, the tide will be going out, taking with it whatever is left of today. But that is later. Right now, the tide is still coming in, and you are here while it does, and the night is wide, and the water is patient, and the waves keep arriving, one after another, in the oldest rhythm in the world. The tide is very nearly at its height. You can hear it in the waves. They are slower now, longer, each one taking more time to arrive and more time to retreat. The tide at its height moves differently from the tide on its way in. The urgency, if there was urgency, has gone. The water is simply here now, at the top of its reach, doing what high tide does, being present, being full, filling all the spaces it can fill. Something in you has reached a similar place. The day, which was full when the evening began, is emptier now. Not empty, not yet. But the tide has been working on it, wave by wave, and what remains is lighter than what you arrived with. The things that were most pressing have been taken or softened. The things that were sharpest have been smoothed. The way the tide smooths everything it moves over, not by force, but by repetition, by the steady wearing action of water returning again and again to the same place. Your mind is quieter than it was. The thoughts are still there, but they are different thoughts from the ones you came in with. They have lost their daylight quality, the sharpness, the urgency, the sense that they need to be addressed right now. They are evening thoughts, water thoughts, thoughts that have been near the sea for long enough to take on something of its quality. They drift, they rise and fall. They move toward you and away from you without requiring you to act on them. Let them. They are not asking for anything tonight. They are simply present the way the water is present, not staying, not going anywhere permanently, just moving through at their own pace and leaving the shore a little different than they found it. The breath is slowing. It has been slowing for the last hour, matching itself to the rhythm of the waves without your asking it to. The body finds these correspondences on its own. It is always looking for a rhythm to attach itself to, and the waves have been offering their rhythm steadily, patiently, and the body has accepted. Breathe in with the wave, the long, slow arrival, the gathering of water, the sound building at the distance and coming closer. Hold for just a moment, the wave at its fullest, spread across the sand. Breathe out with the retreat, long, slow, the water pulling back over what it covered, that long soft sigh of the retreating sea, and the pause between one wave and the next, the true silence of the ocean between breaths, the moment when everything is still and the next wave has not yet begun to build. Rest there, in the pause, in the silence between. The next wave will come on its own. The next breath will come on its own. You do not need to fetch either of them. The ocean has been breathing like this since long before you arrived, and it will be breathing like this long after you have gone to sleep. And through all the hours of your sleep, the tide will complete its arc, arriving at its height, beginning its retreat, going back out over the dark sand, uncovering again what it covered, returning to the wide water where it came from. And you will be asleep through all of that. The thought of it is restful. The thought of all those quiet hours ahead, all that steady work the tide will do without you, all those waves arriving and retreating in the dark, while you are somewhere else entirely, somewhere without tides, without time, without the day or the tomorrow or anything that requires your attendance. Sleep is that other place, and the tide is taking you there, wave by wave, breath by breath. Let it. The body is very still now, still in the way that the shore is still at high tide, not frozen, not rigid, but at the point where movement has slowed to its minimum. The tide at its height barely seems to move. The waves are long and slow, and the difference between one and the next is very small. Everything has reached a kind of fullness. Your body has reached its own fullness, a fullness of rest, a fullness of warmth, a fullness of the kind of stillness that comes when the day has been taken by the tide, and what remains is simply the body, present and warm and needing nothing. Move through it gently. Your head, the scalp, smooth and soft, the muscles around your eyes, released, the forehead, nothing held there, the face of someone who is no longer presenting anything to anyone, the jaw, soft, the lower jaw at its natural rest, the space inside the mouth easy and open, the throat unremarkable, doing nothing, the neck, the long muscles on either side, which have been holding the weight of the head through every hour of this long day. They are resting now. Whatever is behind your head is holding it. The neck can simply be a neck, warm, soft, not working. The shoulders, where are they? Lower than this morning. Lower, probably, than they have been all week. The sea air has something to do with this. There is a quality to breathing salt air that encourages the shoulders to drop, as though the body recognizes something in the composition of sea air that signals, you can let go here. Let them drop a little further, if they will. Just the natural release, not forced, just allowed. The arms, both of them, heavy with their own weight, fully supported, not holding anything, not ready for anything. Just your arms in the cool night air at rest, the hands warm despite the air. The body keeps its warmth in the hands when it can. Each hand loosely arranged, each finger where it has come to rest. Your hands have done what hands do today. They are done now. The chest, rising and falling with the breath, very slowly. The breath of a body at the edge of sleep, moving at the pace of the waves, long in, long out, long pause, and then in again. In, out, the pause, long and easy. The space where the wave has retreated and the next has not yet built. In again, the back, all of it, from the base of the spine to the top, resting against whatever holds it, every part of the back giving up the last of its work to the surface beneath or behind you, not holding, not bracing, simply being held. The legs, long and heavy, the thighs, the knees, the calves, the ankles, all of it present, warm, at rest. The legs that carried you through today, that stood when standing was required, and moved when moving was required. They are not required to do anything now. The feet, at the very end of everything, warm, still, the soles of your feet, which have been the point of contact between you and the ground all day. They are not in contact with anything now, except warmth and support. The whole body, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, present, warm, held by the ground, or the surface, or the night, by whatever is beneath you and around you, and holding you in its quiet way. The waves continue, slow and steady, arriving without urgency, retreating without hurry. You are breathing with them, in and out, and the long pause between. The tide is at its height, and you are at yours. The tide has taken the day. It went with the water, somewhere in the last hour, while the waves were advancing, and you were listening, and the night was deepening around you. Whatever you carried here, it is lighter now, or it is gone entirely. The shore is clean. That is what the tide does finally. When it has done its work, it leaves the shore clean, not empty. The shore is never empty, but clean in the way that water cleans everything it moves over, not by removing everything, but by rearranging it, smoothing it, returning it to something closer to its essential nature. You are closer to your essential nature now. Whatever layers the day put on, the urgency, the effort, the accumulated weight of being a person in the world for another full day, the tide has taken most of it. What is left is simply you, warm, breathing, present in the dark. The waves are very quiet now. They are still arriving. The ocean has not stopped. But from here, at this depth, they are barely audible. Just the faintest suggestion of water moving. The memory of a rhythm more than the rhythm itself. The tide is at its turning point. Somewhere in the dark water, the advance has stopped, and the retreat has begun. And the beach will be different by morning. The water gone back out, the sand revealed, the rocks returned to the air. But all of that will happen while you are asleep, and you will not see it, and it doesn't require you to see it. Your breath is very slow. In, a long pause, out, a longer pause, and then in again, when the body is ready. The night is wide above you and around you. The water is doing what water does. The shore is clean. You are here, in the dark, at the edge of the land, at the edge of the day, at the edge of sleep. And the tide, having taken what it came to take, is beginning its slow retreat. As you are, into the dark, into the quiet, into the rest that the water has been making room for all evening. Sleep now. The tide will keep watch. The waves will keep arriving. The shore will be here in the morning. But right now there is only the dark and the water and the breath. In, out, the tide. Sleep.